Hi guys, it's Joey, and this video is going to be on a subject of people having sensitive souls, and it's based around an article I read, and I've been thinking about the notion over the weekend. I will link the article down below, and it's called 6 Sweet Survival Tips for Super Sensitive Souls by Victoria Erickson. And it's basically discussing the notion that certain people have very sensitive souls. And I think it's quite relevant to pagans in particular because of the way we have sort of a heightened awareness of spirituality, of the sort of searching and journeying that we do, of the way we are aware of the world around us and the impact we have on the way we live with animals and energies. I think it's going to resonate with certain pagans a lot more, and it's definitely resonated with me, and I shared it on my Facebook page, and a couple of pagans there shared it as well because they could identify with the points that were being brought up. And I have often thought I was quite weird, and I had this reinforced by, I tried to discuss this with someone or a couple of someones, and they basically looked at me like I was mad. There are certain pieces of classical music, and I sit there and I listen, and it's like I get lost in them, and it moves me to tears, and I'm overwhelmed by those feelings of joy or sadness, and I feel everything really, really intensely. And I always sort of put a little bit of it down towards being empathic, because I am fairly empathic, and I can often pick up on emotions and things of other people in that respect, and it can be very overwhelming, and it has this negative side that I sometimes just don't want to deal with people because I can't keep taking on all that emotion. So this is sort of like a guide for how super sensitive souls can firstly identify themselves and then cope with things around them. So I'm going to read you a few quotes and then talk about them. So you will probably know that you're sensitive. You soak up others' moods and desires. You absorb sensation the way a paintbrush grasps each colour it touches on the palette. The ethereal beauty of a dandelion, the shift of a season, the climax of a song, or the scent of a certain fragrance can sometimes move you to tears. I've always been really quite sensory, and this keyed into something within me. And I was quite surprised in a way, because I just thought I was perhaps a little bit odd. And I tried to talk to someone, like I said, about this, and it's because when I listen to certain pieces of music, it's like a physical sort of vibration moves through me, and I can imagine the music in my mind taking shapes and images and playing against backdrops, and sunsets would get to me, and sometimes I just sit there and just, it's like taking it all in. And I always just thought it was a bit of me being poetic, perhaps. And music, and sometimes art, and sometimes pictures, and sometimes stories in particular can really hit me quite hard, and it sort of gets taken into myself in a sort of energy way, and it affects me quite deeply. She makes a note here that super sensitive souls are no more fragile than anybody else. It's just they are more stimulated due to their wiring. Let's see. If you are sensitive, you have the ability to see colours and feel energy the way others hear jet planes. You might have... Okay, this is nice. The world takes on a rich tapestry of immense gorgeousness at every turn, which then fuels your imagination and makes you spin with aliveness. That is how I feel about things sometimes, and I just wondered if I was overdoing it, like maybe I shouldn't be that, like I was just a poetic mind, and maybe I was overdoing it. And continually swimming in an endless sea of sensation can be exhausting, regardless if it's beautiful or terrible. And this is why you need a self-care and a support system in place to take care of yourself. And I'm going to read through the things that are suggested and why I think this relates to a lot of pagans in this respect, and why it's significant to me. Tripping over my words today. I had a migraine last night, so my brain's a little bit in the disconnect at the minute. Okay, create. Sensitive types and creativity go hand in hand because their rawness and innate ability to pick up on information and energy that others don't feel can be translated into a form of passionate expression. Just think about that sentence for a minute. If you have an overly sensitive soul, the way you see the world, it can be different and it can be very difficult. But then if you can create out of that, you can sort of displace all that energy rather than letting it overwhelm you, perhaps. Sorry, there's something weird going on with the camera. Rather than letting it overwhelm you, you can put it out there and make it into something positive. Enjoying the company of animals. Sensitive souls tend to have a deep connection with animals due to their innate intuition, understanding of energy and compassion. And animals appreciate this and give back that bond rather than humans, which might have a resistance to that bond, which is why a lot of sensitive souls do connect with animals, because animals are sort of purer and more giving in that respect. I wish I could have a cat. If I could have a cat, I'd never be on here. I'd be following the cat with the camcorder. I'd be a crazy cat lady, I swear. But I'm not allowed one here, so. And, you know, I think a lot of pagans do create, and a lot of pagans do have a connection with animals, which is interesting. And it just makes me wonder if super sensitive souls are attracted to the sort of balancing within nature, within searching out those energies, with realizing how those energies fit into the world, and coming to an understanding of what they're seeing and feeling within a realm of spirituality. Like, are they seeing auras? Are they seeing people's inner colours? And it's just part of who they are, and they're searching to understand that, and paganism can help. Seek out water. Water is magical, and one of its many uses is to achieve peace, calm and balance, to go to the sea, a lake, a stream, or even your bathtub. So basically my bathtub is about as far as I can go. We're about as far away from the sea as we can get. We get to go maybe once or twice a year to the seaside, so it's a big event for me going to the sea. Going to the seaside. Yeah, I'm one of those. But I've talked at length about how you can have a spiritual experience even in your own bath. You know, you take your safe tumblestones in the bath with you, and you have your scented candles and whatnot, and you can make it a vision of an experience of sense, you know, with the sense of smell and the water and the candles and the light and the heat, and it can be a wonderful, peaceful experience. This next one I think is cool. This be aware of what is yours and what is not. When you take in other people's energies, you must learn to instantly let go of what she calls the yuck, because of that energy wasn't yours to begin with, and it's negative and imbalanced, and it can actually make you feel physically sick. Learn to recognize your own energy and emotions and place an protective invisible shield around yourself to block out anything that is not yours. So often, and there's been talk of this in a lot of people's videos and mine, is about you take on the weight of the world, you take on other people's issues and feelings, and it's hard to sort of disengage yourself from that and to sort of think where your lines of worry begin and where other people's are, and trying to shift out that negative energy that you might take on from being super sensitive, especially if you're empathic, or even sensitive to those sorts of things. You know, you might not consider yourself empathic, but you might be sensitive to other people's emotions and energies. The next one is hard. In my experience, surround yourself with people that understand your nature and nurture that connection. This is nice. Okay. Pierre, right, if I'm saying this wrong, forgive me. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin once said, "There is almost a central longing for communication with others that have a larger vision. The immense fulfillment of the friendships between those engaged in furthering the evolution of consciousness has a quality almost impossible to describe." Finding people who you resonate with at a soul level, be it friend or more than that, is a really incredibly difficult thing to do, particularly for super sensitive souls, as in my experience, because a lot of people just don't want to connect like that. A lot of people don't want to discuss things which are difficult and complicated. Not in my experience anyway. I mean, I tried to talk to people about how I felt with the music, or how a particular story moved me to tears even after hearing it, and certain people looked at me like I was nuts, you know, like, why would that, maybe that was too much information, sort of thing. So if you can find people who you resonate, really, honestly, truthfully resonate on like that, I think you're doing really well. And the final one is retreat, replenish and rejuvenate. Take some time for yourself, and your body and mind need it. When you're sensitive, you need to fiercely guard your own serenity to protect your open heart. You need to fiercely guard your serenity to protect your open heart. I think that is so true of everything that I've been thinking about recently, and such a difficult thing to sometimes allow ourselves to do. Is if your heart is sensitive and open and you feel things so so profoundly, you do need that space. Once you have these things in place, go and experience your own super sensitive soul, the world within, and, you know, meditation, going back into nature. These are all ways of spending time with yourself to allow yourself to be you, basically. I think that's all we need to read from the actual thing, from the actual article. I will link that down below. But it was a really interesting read that really resonated with me right now. And I think there might well be a lot of people out there who are engaged in a similar spiritual path of searching for a sense of self, searching for balance, searching for the understanding of the greater mysteries and connection. Because that's what we are all looking for, is a series of connections in this world. We're looking to connect with divinity, we're looking to connect with ourselves, we're looking to connect with other like-minded individuals, and most people are looking for a connection of the heart, be it through friendships or through a partner, both, generally speaking. But, you know, this is what people are looking for. And if you have a super sensitive soul, it can be a really difficult experience, especially when people hurt your heart in such a way that it becomes difficult to then reconnect and keep going. And I thought this was such a wonderful article to draw attention to the fact that, you know, there are people out there who are extra sensitive on a soul level. And I thought, this makes so much sense to me now, because I feel like that sometimes, like stories of certain love stories and certain things, they were just so sad, and I remember them to this day. It's like there was a story about a man who had sent his wife flowers every single Valentine's Day, I think, or maybe their anniversary. And after he died, she got flowers the next year, and she thought there was a mix-up and was quite upset because she just lost her husband. And she went down there, and the florist said, "There's no mistake. He paid for them X amount of years after, and into the future." And after his passing, the note that came with the flowers was, "Our love is eternal." And that's tearing me up right now. And then there was a story about a Burmese cat. We had a Burmese cat in our family home, and they're huge personalities. And this story tears me up as well, where there was an elderly lady who had a Burmese cat, and she died. And when they found her, the Burmese cat had curled up on top of her and died because he wanted to go with her. And I'm tearing up, as you can see. And that was a few years ago, that story, and these sorts of things do stir something in me, and I'm incredibly sensitive to this sort of thing. And this article was interesting, so you become aware that there are other people out there who have super sensitive souls. And I just wanted to bring this article to the attention of people and just discuss it in a sort of more of a broad stroke type way, rather than going too much into depth into each section, because we could be here for a long time and I don't want to keep going and going and going. But I really do love this article. I thought it was interesting and a really great standoff point to start looking into something which I think could be really helpful for a good number of people. So I'm going to leave it at that point because I'm quite tired now. So many blessings.